Hi loves, it's Elle and welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for being here today. Today we are going to be doing a really effortless but face lifting makeup look. So before we get started, hit the subscribe button, share this video with somebody you think might like it, and let's do it. So I don't know about you, but recently things have been changing on my skin. I've been getting some little more jowls coming in this way, a little more hooding in the eye area, and I also just been wanting to look a little bit more fresh. A lot of us have not been wearing makeup recently, and like I said in a video a little while ago, it makes me feel so good to wear makeup, but also it needs to be in more of a fresh, approachable, kind of ageless way. So we're going to combine two techniques today: fresh, ageless kind of makeup look, and also they are all going to be face makeup lifting techniques. All right, so to get started, I just pick one of my go-to foundations. This is the Smith & Colt foundation. And for this look, you're going to want to use either like a higher coverage tinted moisturizer or just a normal coverage foundation. It really depends on what foundation you like and that makes you feel amazing, okay? So that's what we want to start here with, is the foundation that makes you feel like $1,000,000. Quick tip: make sure that your foundation matches your chest. So this part of your chest. That is how you pick the appropriate foundation color for you. And I am applying this foundation with a barely damp sponge just to add a little more luminosity to the skin, as well as just kind of sheer the foundation out a little bit. And I do bring the foundation just down the neck just a little bit, just so there's no line of demarcation. What I also like to do is just do a quick swipe of whatever is left over on my sponge, because I have pretty pigmented eyes. All right, so time for concealer. I'm just using the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define. And you don't want to add too much here. So you usually just do a dot in this, like in the corner of the eye, right here and right here. This concealer is a pretty full coverage concealer, so it depends on the one that you're using. Now, this technique on using a concealer that is about a shade lighter than your foundation will actually add a lifting effect to the under eye area. The darkness won't be as prominent, as well as it will look more flat. Now, if you have any kind of discoloration underneath the eye that's severe, go ahead and color correct first and then apply your concealer. Now, you also want to try to bring your concealer out to your brow bone. Now, again, not a lot. We're talking about shading and lightening. That's how we create definition and lift in the face. I am going to bring it on the inner corner of my eye, because a lot of us have darkness on the inside corner of our eye. And when you lighten it up, it brightens that space up, as well as it opens the eyes up. And when we pull the concealer out to our temple, it also gives a lifting effect of this whole kind of eye area. And again, I'm just kind of going back and forth just to make sure that this is really pressed in. And you don't have to bring your concealer up to this lash line. That's a great way of helping your concealer not crease. Reason being is the eye technique we're going to do in a second. All right, so I already feel brighter on the insides of my eyes. I already feel more lifted. Now, because all of my favorite powders and favorite bronzers and other products, so I'm talking about Hourglass being kind of in the middle of something going on right now, so I've chosen not to use them in this demonstration. And then now, Charlotte Tilbury is not cruelty-free really anymore. It's still out for discussion. We're going to try to do something a little bit different. I'm going to take my Fenty bronzer in Butter Biscuit. Now I'm going to take it on the same sponge. A lot of people ask for the placement of contouring, especially as we age. So we don't want to place it as if we were when we were younger. We would place it right here, okay? So, right, sucking it in. That is where we would have placed it younger. But when we do that, it has a tendency to sink, okay, when we kind of relax the face. So you're going to go just gently from the top of the ear right above that line. Yes, hope you can see that. And you don't want to apply too much bronzer. This is just, just to add a little bit of color to the face. Obviously bronzer is not used for definition, but this is a more fresh look, so we are going to use it for a little bit of shading. And then we're also not going to bring it in past the outside of our eye. When we were younger, we could have brought it in here to sculpt this cheekbone, but again, this is going to be a little bit more downturned with the mouth. So I'm just pressing it in, just like that. You can already see the difference. This one, it looks a little bit more lifted and a little bit more defined, and I have a little bit of color to the face. Again, top of the ear, right along that cheekbone underneath and into the temple. There we go. And remember, darker colors recede things, and lighter colors push forward other things. And then my face is it's uneven sometimes. So I like to just make sure that this is really nice and even. I have to bring this side in just a little bit more because this side's a little more sculpted. And then I just do it on the forehead because I have a pretty large forehead and I like to shorten it a little bit, as well as obviously just give it a little bit of color so the face doesn't look one-dimensional. There we go. See, it's starting to really come together and look a lot flawless and lifted. And this doesn't take very long at all, but it is going to make you feel really good. All right, so we're going to go in with the Well People Brightening, powder. And I'm just going to take it on a little tinier brush. This is the BK Beauty 108 brush. And we're just going to set a little bit on the face. Again, we want to keep this really fresh, which is also more youthful, which also gives the skin a more lifted, bright effect to the skin. But for me, I'm going to just set ever so slightly underneath the eyes, just a little bit. Tap, tap, tap. And I am going to take it right here in the center of the face. Now, if you have a chin that is looking like mine and these kind of things are starting to come out, you can obviously use a powder for this. So if you have a powder bronzer or a powder contour, you want to use something that does not have any reflective qualities in it. So it needs to be matte. I normally would have used the Charlotte Tilbury big bronzer that I just bought, but we'll have to see if she is going to be cruelty-free or not. So I'm just going to, again, take the cream, and I'm going to kind of make your face look a little bit more like jut your chin back and dab on this area that kind of protrudes forward. Now, don't use a ton, and then just gently kind of feather back. Don't use a ton because then people are going to be able to see that. You just want it to be a light shadow. And I'm going to do the same thing right here on my jowl. I just want to recede it just a little bit more. There we go. So you can see how that is kind of nicely carved that area out. Now, if you have really deep marionette lines right here, you're going to want to take a little bit of a lighter powder, so even like this brightening powder, or you can take a little bit of concealer and lighten that part up, but make sure you bring a little bit of light to that area. This powder is a little bit, it's translucent, so I'm just going to set this right here. There we go. So you can kind of see how that's defined that a little bit more. All right, love it. Now for blush. We have been probably applying our blush the same way for years and years and years. You're going to apply it a little bit differently. I'm actually going to take the same brush, and I'm going to go into a semi-matte blush. You don't want something too shiny, and too matte can be a little bit flat looking on the face. So having a little bit of sheen or just a little bit of shift in there will really help lift and brighten up the cheeks and give it more of that flawless look. This is a blush by Lawless called Soft Nectar. And I like to pick something a little poppy. And now when we apply it, I like to now start at the top of my cheekbone right here, going towards the temple in these broad strokes. I use a small brush so that the blush does not get out of control and go up into areas we don't want to happen, or we don't want it to go to. And I will ever so slightly hit the apple of my cheek. I don't mind that my face is a little bit rounder, And especially as we age, a lot of our volume in our face kind of gets a little bit lost. So adding just a touch of blush to the apples of our cheeks will help to fill that in and give that a little more optical illusion of fullness. But by bringing your blush up on top of this cheekbone is going to again give that lifted look and more sculpted look to the face. Again, start halfway up into the temple, little tiny circles, and you want to start with just a little bit of product on your brush. You don't want to go in full pigment. It's hard to come back from that. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure everything looks even. Feeling better already. Now, if you really, really wanted to, you of course could take just a touch of highlighter. This one's by Elle. This is a cream highlighter, so it's not so glittery, and just barely tap it on top of that cheekbone to the temple, just to add some light to the face. But this is completely optional. This is definitely not like necessary. All right, so let's go to the eyes. Now, for me, I really love a very soft defined eye. This is my new little favorite palette. Have you guys tried this one? This one's by Too Faced. It's called That's My Jam. It's so cute, great price point. But we're gonna actually go in with this color right here, and I'm gonna use it on the crease, but just above it. So as you know, as we age, our eyes have a tendency to droop a little bit more. So when you are going on top of the hood, you want to look down into a mirror, find your crease, and go back and forth. Isn't that color beautiful? Very pigmented palette, by the way. Now, instead of going down and finishing it at this angle, you want to actually go in a more of a straight line out. So we're just kind of circular motions, going in a little bit to the corner of the eye, just a little bit, and pushing it a little bit more into the brow bone, leaving this kind of clear of any color, and then pushing out towards the end of the brow. So we're not going to do like a rainbow effect. We're just going to go in and then out. Show you again. Find that socket, back and forth, really light pressure, circular motions, and fading out. Now, of course, you could amp this up with a little bit deeper color. This one is absolutely gorgeous in this palette. But what I'm going to show you is I'm going to have you do it on the lash line. I'm going to take a little pencil brush. You can also take an angled brush. That's totally fine too. We're going to go into that deep color, tap off your brush, and we're going to look down again into our mirror, down, and we're going to just do a very light, almost like a smoky faux wing liner halfway in, and stop before you get the kick out. Just stop. I'll show you why. So again, we're going to look down. We're just doing it halfway, and before you kick it out. Okay, so if you have a smaller eye shape, you can absolutely use a angled thin brush and do it more of a liner. It just depends on how much space you have right here. I have quite a bit of space, so I have a little bit more space to like play with. Now, to get the right kick out, to give a little lift, you are going to follow the bottom lash line up. Okay, so you just want to make an imaginary line in your head. And I'm just going to be like, ooh, there it is. And I'm just going to give a very gentle shadow. There we go. So this is all about not making it too dramatic or too dark. And also you can obviously play with the pigmentation. It's just whatever you like. And again, following that line, I'm going to follow my pencil and kick. There we go. It's really that simple. Okay, so now I'm going to take my angled brush. This one's just by Zoeva, same color, and I'm going to gently tap it along the lash line just to blend this and make this kind of fade into the rest of the eye. I don't typically bring my eyeliner in all the way because when you do, yes, it defines the eye, but it can have a closing effect of the eye. Now on the bottom lash line, you can choose to use that deeper color. You can obviously, give a nice, beautiful drop shadow. I really highly recommend to try your best to stay away from angled brushes and hard lines underneath the eye. Reason being is, yes, it defines the eye. It also adds a little bit of harshness and to the bottom lash line, and can, there again, remember, this is makeup, there are no rules. Do what feels really great to you, but on average, a drop shadow or no shadow on the bottom is usually the best kind of option to give a more youthful looked eye, or a youthful lifted eye, or more of a fresh look too. So what I like to do is go back into the first color with my pencil brush. I'm going to look up, and I'm just gently going to give a little bit of drop. That's it. And so this still defines the eye, but it's not so harsh. And I do stay away from black on the bottom lash line, again, just because it's a little harsh and abrupt. So you can use any color from blue to obviously browns, purples, whatever color makes you feel good. All right, eyes are almost done. Curling the eyelashes, as they say, is a push-up bra for the face. I actually have to agree. So if you can find an eyelash curler that you can work with, this one's by Tarte. Really curling those lashes is going to be kind of life-changing for your eye. One being, it obviously curls those lashes up and it opens the eye up dramatically. Also, if you have a hooded eye and can't see a ton of color up here, having beautifully curled lashes with some mascara on it really gives the optical illusion of a little more opened eye. All right, so I just put my brows on. The one thing I'll tell you is I have a whole video on how I do my brows, but when you're doing, please fill in your brows if you can, if you feel comfortable, because again, the brows are gonna be the frame of the face. They are absolutely gonna be eye lifting for sure, but make sure whenever you do your eyebrows, you don't go inwards towards your eyes at the very end of the brow. You want to take them out at an angle towards like where your temples are, right about here. See how they kind of just go whoop? So we don't want to drag it down any further. So that's really the end of the look. I do love to go in with, this is just a hydrating spray by Pure, and I like to just give the face a nice dose of a hydrating spray. You can do this with a hydrating toner, whatever you want to do, but what it does is it just gives some life back to the skin. You can see the luminosity on the apples of the cheeks. Looks very effortless and youthful. So I hope that these tips really inspire you to maybe do your makeup every once in a while, and I also hope these tips kind of help you kind of navigate using makeup to give a little bit of a difference or a lifted appearance to the face, because that's what I love. I love a little bit more of a lift when we don't want to go get, you know, cosmetic procedures and things like that. And, you know, I just hope that you love that this is a fresh and effortless look. So thank you all so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Lots of love from me to you. Bye, loves.